Whatever it is.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Mike. Yes, sir.
Heather.
Read that last night. He was telling me that yesterday.
Good.
Heather?
That's crazy. Oh, that's weird. You know what? Chris, you'll get $1.07, you'll get $1.06. Okay.
So he was like, "Where's the way home?" So much.
Did you bring some things for me?
No, I texted you today.
No, I didn't get a text. Where did you text me? When can I pick them up? Okay.
I can see her. You want to see that?
Here's a link. Trick. He's the love of my life.
His name?
Chase.
Chase. We're wasting, right?
Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to call to order the regular city commission meeting for Tuesday, January 24th, 2023 at 7:01 p.m. You have roll call, please.
Commissioner Drosky,
Here.
Commissioner Parnas,
Here.
Commissioner Preston,
Here.
Vice Mayor Huda,
Here.
Mayor Dan.
Here. If you please stand for a moment of silence and a pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have approval of the city commission meeting minutes for the special city commission meeting of December 15th, 2022. Looking to approve. Motion by Commissioner Preston, second by Vice Mayor Hudak. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed. We have acknowledgement of our city board meeting minutes for a community appearance at the board meeting of October 26th, 2022. Motion to approve.
Second.
Commissioner Preston, second by Vice Mayor Hudak. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed. The approval of our agenda for January 24th, 2023. Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Preston, second by Arness. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Our new Madam Clerk, before we get to that next part, I will say this. We would like to welcome Heather Montemayor to be our newest city clerk. Congratulations. We're really excited. Heather was our assistant city clerk for many years. She's done an outstanding job. She's doing a fantastic job in this. This will be your first test. Don't blow it.
For those attending via Zoom online, wishing to speak under public comment or on an item that's open for public input, please click raise hand at the bottom of your Zoom tab and your audio will be unmuted when you're recognized by your name. For those attending via Zoom by telephone, please press *9 to raise your hand and your audio will be unmuted when you're recognized by your name. Please make sure that your audio is unmuted on your end by pressing *. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our first items, we're going to bring up Catherine Hopkins to do certificate recognition for some of our DSO law enforcement staff.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, distinguished commissioners, Mr. City Manager, members of the community. I always appreciate the opportunity to be here. I'm not going to do my normal presentation of any awards or recognitions tonight, not to save time, but actually I just wanted to take the opportunity to ask everyone to keep in their thoughts and prayers our deputy sheriff that was injured very badly over the weekend in a traffic crash. I am pleased to report that he will recover, but it's going to be a long road. Very serious injuries, a very serious crash, but we're rallying behind him, and I appreciate that the community has too, and I appreciate everyone's thought and consideration of the circumstances. This was one of 3 crashes this weekend, one in Deerfield. The other 2 were outside of the city, but all BSO deputies. And it's a reminder, it's very perilous out there, unfortunately, on these roads. And I implore the community to be mindful of that. And thank you for being cognizant of emergency vehicles and, each other as well on the roadways. The roadways are hazardous. And obviously, it's a reason why we take traffic enforcement very serious here in the city. And we will continue to do so. So thank you for keeping that deputy in your thoughts and prayers and being very supportive of law enforcement as the city is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item numbers 2 and 3, it's my understanding on tonight's agenda for quasi-judicial public hearings will be presented together. So I'm just going to go ahead and read the titles of both items in the record as a reminder. We will need separate votes on both items. First item number 2, is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, considering the plat application submitted by B'nai B'rith, Apartments of Deerfield Beach 2, Inc., to amend the plat note for the 4.2 acre site located at 255 Southwest 3rd Avenue within the RM15 Residence Multifamily Zoning District to increase the number of sleeping rooms from 312 to 350. Application number 21-P-230, providing for conflicts, severability, and an effective date. Item number 3 is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, considering a major site plan modification application from B'nai B'rith, Apartments of Deerfield Beach 2, Inc., to construct a 62-unit senior living apartment building and related site improvements at the property located at 255 Southwest 3rd Avenue, Deerfield Beach, Florida, in the RM15 Residence Multifamily Zoning District, application number 21-RM15-65. Considering variances from front and street yard setback requirements, required lot area requirements, and minimum landscape area requirements, considering a technical deviation to reduce the amount of required parking spaces by 23 parking spaces, and considering the allocation of 35 bonus sleeping rooms, providing for conflicts, severability, and an effective date. As a reminder on the site plan item, it will require a 4/5 vote for approval because they are requesting variances. And then when the applicant comes up, if you could just let us know whether you do have the right to a more formal quasi-judicial procedure, whether you choose to waive that right or not, would be appreciated after stating your name and address for the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The representatives.
Good evening. My name's James Kahn, Senior Planner with Keith. I'm here representing B'nai B'rith. The case that I also have many members of the B'nai B'rith organization to help answer any questions I have. So to start off is, as the attorney mentioned, there's a complex project. It's
I'm sorry to interrupt you, sir.
I'm
Would you
sorry,
just
my name-
advise name and address, and whether you waive the quasi-judicial?
sorry, I
Thank you.
forgot. I saw it come up on the conference. Sorry, go ahead. Yes, James Kahn, 301 East Atlantic Avenue, Buffalo Beach, Florida. Keith and Associates, and yes, we waived the quasi-judicial rules. That said, this is the 4th and final phase of B'nai B'rith. When you look back at where we've been, it was like 37 years ago we started on this. Vacant piece of land, and 4 phases later, we're left to the last little over an acre piece of land left. Who would have known 37 years ago? And the last phase was about 15 years ago. So we have a long working relationship with the city. And it's a good project. And B'nai B'rith is a great nonprofit organization and providing a service to the community. And we are happy to present this final phase. So with that, I'll walk you through a few of the the petitions, applications we have, and where we are. Next slide. So as you can see here, B'nai B'rith is a not-for-profit organization. We're providing affordable housing for low-income seniors. This is independent living. This is these people are on their own, capable on their own. It's not a care facility. The existing site is, we have this 3.5 acres because the neighborhood 2, which is adjacent to us, we're tied into them with the parking and access and facilities. So we look at having to make those connections between the two projects. So when the overall project says it's 3.5 acres, that's the reason why, because it's the last piece left. We're using the same driveways, the whole drainage, all the systems are all tied together. So it was looked at the whole piece. There's some minor modifications, but our piece is only 1.4 acres. It's highlighted there in the top part. We're right at the corner. And we are zone RM15 with a medium noise density. Next slide. So you can see here on this, on the top is our actual site. It's 4 stories. 62 units is all we could fit on the site. We wish we could fit more, but we're trying to maximize the amount of units we can get to help the community. And 62 is the magic number it worked out to be. 47 1-bedroom and 15 2-bedroom. As I said, it's 62 years of age is the minimum requirement, and total income is 80% or less of Broward County median income. So the plat note is something that's a little different because we are a special residential facility under Broward County rules. They have the rules now that we can request in terms of the sleeping rooms, the bonus sleeping rooms. And that's how we get to the number of units for our. It's a special planning council rules that the county had because the county realizes that providing affordable housing is critical need here in the county. So they've adopted this system, which the city is a part of. And we're asking for 35 out of your total of, I think it's 68 or 63 available. So you still have a balance left. So there's a plat note request. This is part of that. That's the first item for one of the things we need. Next slide. We'll go into some of the others. A technical deviation. I've probably done in the last year and a half, probably half a dozen senior living facilities, and codes don't really address the parking requirements of seniors because they don't drive as much. They don't have 2 cars. Most of them have 1 or no cars. So the ITE, which is the Institute of Traffic Engineers, has standards that they follow. So we went out there on 2 different days in December, one on a weekday, one on a weekend, and we did 15-minute counts all day long into the night to see what the available parking was. And actually, if we weren't surprised, the spaces are not filled. Roughly half the spaces basically don't get used because the code requires too many. So we're asking for a deviation to be able to get the parking in the right place we need it. So we provided the studies to the city by traffic engineer demonstrating the need. So that's what the technical deviation is on parking. And this is how I've done this in cities all across Broward County. So, next slide will be on some of the variance requests. We have the minimum lot area. What happened is hindsight, when we started this 30 some odd years ago and moved forward, we never realized we'd be at the last piece of property left. So we're left with just that 1.4 acres. So the minimum lot area we were stuck with was not a lot. So we did the best we could, but if you look at the overall parcel with both sites, we would make the requirements. But this one standing on its own is a little short. So we're asking for that variance. It's based on a square footage per unit, which I'm not so sure that it's not geared towards a regular multifamily community. I don't know if you really need that much for a senior center, but we can make it when we look at both sites together. The street setback, if you looked, well, I'll show you in a second, if you can picture, we have the 4 sites there, and they were all done on different periods with the zoning history in your city. The 2 in the middle are set back of all the parking in the front. Today, the common theory that you've adopted, like for Pioneer Road, is bring the buildings out to the street, activate the street, hide the parking. So if you can see, that's what we've done here. We put the parking in the rear. You will not see the parking from the street. So this is a change in your typical design, more in line with today's zoning theories of what you're adopting in other places in the city. So to do that, we need a little variance to make the parking work. And landscape area, it's just a matter of, we had X number of feet left, we put the building in, the required parking, everything together. We're a little short on the landscaping, but when you look at the 2 sites together overall, we would meet the requirements. So we're asking for those 3 variables. As you can see on the overall plan here, what we've done is bringing the building out to the street. Next slide. This is just a little bit, I talked about the project history, how you can see where we are in building 1, 2, and 3. And the aerial doesn't show it, but the whole front of the building 1 and 2 of the apartment is in the front of the buildings. And our site is going to be all the way in the back. So you can see this is the last site left. I'm sure we wish there was more land, we could do more, but this is it. And we're trying to make the best of what we can do to make the project work, be a benefit to the city. We believe that this project fulfills all the goals and requirements of the city comprehensive plan, meet the zoning regulations as far as density, and we'd like to respectfully ask that we get the technical deviation and the variances to make this project work so that we can provide this service to the community. There was one last slide we had. We went before the CAB. This is just not a pretty rendering with trees in front, what have you, but it's the building. On the ground floor at the dark brown area, that's brick. So the first layer, plus going up every alternate layer, there's a little more. We put a brick in there so that the front of the building has more pedestrian feel to it. And the colors are beige and a little darker brown in areas. So we try to keep the colors muted, but we had brick in the ground floor. And that was something we went through with the CAB. And I'm here to answer any questions. I have other team members here, and if I can answer, I'll try to get back to it.
Excellent. Thank you. Commission, you have any comments? Yes.
The neighborhood was built basically to help unfortunate seniors. Don't have a lot of money. What is the average income of the people living in the neighborhood? Or what are the requirements?
80% of the median Broward County income.
I'm sorry.
80% of the Broward County median income.
80%, not 100%, but 80%. Okay. Being the commissioner, probably with the largest percentage of senior citizens in District 3, Century Village. During the season, we have 16,000 senior citizens. I'm inclined, being a senior citizen myself, to look after the less fortunate. People who, for whatever reason, didn't put away enough money, didn't have a big enough job that they're getting a lot of money from Social Security, and they're struggling. And with prices, I don't remember the last time they really went down. Proportionate to their income makes it every year a little more difficult. I think this is a wonderful project. We're running out of space in the city. It's attached to what we already have in senior housing. And I would ask my associates up here to grant the necessary adjustments to allow this to happen. It's needed. We have to look after our seniors. They came before us and deserve a little dignity in the latter part of their life. And this will give it to them. So I urge you to approve this.
Okay, Commissioner Preston.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to just make some points, here, just to clarify a couple of things. When this project came forward, everybody within 500 feet of this was sent a notice, correct?
Yes,
Okay. And all of the work to be done is on the neighbor's property already, the existing property, is that correct?
correct.
Okay, so there is no move to somehow extend the project in the community, taking this property away from the existing community, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Grosky.
Thank you, Mayor. I mean, this is certainly a worthwhile project. I mean, we need affordable housing in Deerfield Beach, especially senior housing. But we still have to follow the requirements for the approvals tonight. And you did a good job explaining what the variances and technical deviation are, but I think it was a little short on what the hardship is, because those require an explanation of a hardship as it relates to the property. So can you give me a little more detail as to what your rationale for the hardship for your variance and deviation request is?
I'll try. Because the hardship is that we're left with a small piece of property.
And refer to any of your slides if you need to for visuals.
We're left with a smaller piece of property, and we want to maximize the amount of units we can put on it. And the available county units we can put on there, as we put those extra units on, they all required some additional, in theory, the extra space, like for the lot size requirements, which seniors probably, are not a necessary, that type of use. If I was a developer, I would say, I'm just asking for stuff so I can make more money. We're not making any more money. This is a not-for-profit. Our goal is not to the same. We're here to provide a service the best we can for the community. That's our goal. So we want to maximize the amount of units we can get and fulfill all the community goals that are available to us, that are needed. So we tried everything we could. We had to accommodate the drainage for the other projects. We tried to incorporate the parking time together. We came up with a design, moved the building forward. We were stuck with what we could do in the back with parking. That's why we're asking for the technical deviation, because it's really not needed because seniors don't drive. So we're trying to put together the minimum necessary to make a good project, to get the maximum benefit out of the project that we can. And it's not like the financial type of situation a normal developer would have. We're available to get these units. If we just cut a floor off the building, it's not serving a purpose to anybody. The community sees it, not us. I mean, we still could build the building, but we're not taking advantage of the rules that are there to give us a little more for the community.
So doesn't this really relate to the buildings, BB 1, 2, and 3 that were there before? I'm assuming this is going to be 4. I'm going to
Yes.
refer to it as at 4. So let me help you out a little bit. Like on the front setback, for example, if you were to look, I think it's at building 1 that's set further back than the other one. So if you were, so it just would not be, this kind of bookends,
Yes.
the project as it is. So the property as it's configured, you needed the variance to kind of bookend the existing buildings
Yes.
that you have.
Yes.
But I need you to tell me this. I'm not here to do your job. I need you to tell me the hardship so we can approve it.
But that building was built under a set of codes 30 some odd years ago, or 20 years ago, whenever that building was built, that had a 25, it didn't have the Pioneer Grove type of zoning that you're trying to go towards today. that's the normal of what you're trying to do in current zoning practices. So we took, even though we're not zoned in Pioneer Grove, we took those types of principles that you're trying to promote in the city and use them on this project. You know, we could have set the building back, way back, and put all the parking in front, but we didn't think that was the right way to go anymore. We came and did the project, like say, like bookends, even though that wasn't the original thought, it works out that way. But we wanted to use a more modern zoning code that brought the building up to the street. And that required, what we were left with was difficult to work with. So it wasn't a matter of, we could have done other things, probably we could have, but we thought the proper thing to do was follow current zoning practice, activate the street, bring people closer up, hide the parking in the back, all those things that we tried to do caused us to do all these other requests.
So then, with respect to the minimal lot area and then the landscape area, again, if you were looking at this one parcel in and of itself, it's short, but when you take the project
Yes.
into consideration as a whole for what's already
Yes.
there and what's been there for quite some time, it kind of makes it a more
Correct.
cohesive
And I
concept.
think the staff in their report pointed that out, that, and when you looked at it as a whole, the both parcels, you know, we do make the criteria. Unfortunately, you know, 30 years ago, I never thought we'd get to the end and it would be where we are now. But when you do look at both parcels together, we can make the criteria. It's just that this stating on this little 1.4 acres, it was difficult to make it when we looked at the bigger picture and what does work.
Okay, I understand. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the, sorry, go ahead, next one.
I appreciate it. First of all, I've visited this facility in Porter, and I'm very impressed with the facility and what you do for the seniors. So I really appreciate that. We have some bad players in this industry within our city, and this is not one of them. This is an organization that really takes care of its residents, and I greatly appreciate that. It is a huge need, not just in Deerfield Beach, but in Broward County and probably the state as a whole, the service that you provide. So I really do appreciate that. I'm grateful for Commissioner Drosky to point out some of those challenges and enable you to articulate them a little bit better. Because there is a hardship, and part of it has to do with the new zoning as well as the previous zoning. And so I am going to be voting for this project because of what you do for our community, and I can kind of see the hardship that has been placed on your organization. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to also thank my colleague for just bringing that forward about the request for technical deviations and variances. My question would be that what is being requested as it relates to the technical deviations and variances? Is the request kind of in line with what you guys did before when you were building the initial building? In other words, is there anything here that's really being asked more of?
Well, on the technical deviation, like for the parking, they all met the parking at the time and overbuilt the parking. So what we're doing is we came back and now we can tell you they put and proved through the traffic engineering reports that that parking was overdone. And since our parking lot is seamless, you know, so the parking lot next door, the parking spaces that they're not using, we documented, are available to supposed residents. You know, it's the parking lot is a seamless parking lot, so there's no shortage of spaces with the reduction. One thing I just was going to mention that I didn't mention before, just in general on the buildings, that these buildings will all have, the new building will have, you know, controlled access, security cameras, fobs for access after hours. On the ground floor, there's game rooms, there's meeting rooms, there's a business center. We try to incorporate all those things that seniors need in the building. So I didn't fail to mention that before, but it's just not a building. These people will have a lot of services in the building.
Excellent. Is there anyone from the public who would care to comment on this item? Here, closing to the public. I do have just a couple of questions for myself. It doesn't bother me with the setback, it doesn't bother me with the landscape, because I think there is a hardship that's there based on the totality of the project itself, based on the previous development that's been done on that property. So I can live with that. I would say that the lot area variance is significant. I was wondering maybe if Mr. Power might be able to comment on that, give us a little insight. And when it comes to the hardship on this is a little bit different than what you have in the traditional development. This is not something that we're giving variances to developers, so that, as you pointed out, trying to squeeze in extra spaces. This is something that benefits the city. It's a much needed style and type of housing that we need for the city. And I think it benefits the city overall to grant these variances. But I am concerned about the lot area, and I have a couple of questions regarding the flex request. Mr. Power, if you don't mind. He's right behind you, sir.
Okay, I thought you
He's sneaky that way. What's that?
Eric Power, Director of Development Services. So the issue of the lot area relates to partially city code. So the reality that, this is a non-for-profit, they still have to deal with all the same legal issues that any development has to deal with. And for those reasons, they have separated each one of these lots as a separate entity. In reality, they're all the same. They're all the same owner, right? But by our code, they're required to show us those specifications like lot area and stuff by the actual amount of property that they're proposing to build, which is why it's too small. If you look at the entire site, there isn't a lot area issue. And so the argument made for the variance is that for the entire site, this is not a problem. But as we have separated this into 4 separate parcels, divvied up that pie, that's where it becomes the issue. So it is partly the fact that this is a requirement of the city code, and partly the fact that these are being parceled out as 4 separate entities, even though it's all the same owner. I would tell you in a similar situation, like if there's a commercial property where there's a possibility for a commercial entity to sell an out parcel, right? We would flag that as a concern, because then you're creating a problem for the future. Whereas this is not a problem, whereas this will always be one whole site.
When it comes to the flex units, that's going to leave us with 32 flex units. For the entire
It's
city.
not flex units, bonus sleeping rooms, which is a category of flex unit. So this is an important distinction. So bonus sleeping rooms is a category created by Broward County. It's the Broward County definition that is used only for types of housing which they offer. So any type of assisted living home, as he mentioned, it's not assisted living in the fact where they need someone to be there, but they fall into that category definition for sort of special residential facility in county code. Because they fall into that definition, they're allowed to take from this particular pot. The only people who have ever taken from this pot, the city of Deerfield Beach, is them. So, but this isn't the same flex units that we offer to say Tallman Pines.
That's what concerned me, because I heard there was only going to leave us with 32 left.
Right.
Concern. Excellent. Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Mr. Carter. Big commission.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion from Commissioner Preston. I'm going to take that as a second.
You got it.
Excellent. We have roll call, please.
Commissioner Drosky,
Yes.
Commissioner Barnett,
Yes.
Commissioner Preston,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Huda,
Now, I'm presuming we're talking about item number 2, right? Because we have to have separate votes on each of them, correct?
You're correct. Item number 2 first, and then after you finish this vote, we'll go to 3.
Yes.
Mayor Diaz.
Yes.
Okay, now you're on item number 3, which is the site plan, including the variances, technical deviation, and the bonus rooms.
And we don't need to open it to the public. Yeah,
Go ahead and open to the public. I don't remember if you were clear.
Public who care to comment on it. Should be the site. Not seeing any, not seeing any online, and we're closing to the public.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion from Commissioner Preston, second by Commissioner Parnas. May I roll call, please?
Commissioner Drosky,
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas,
Yes.
Commissioner Preston,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Huda,
Yes.
Chair Dan.
Yes.
We are now at the public comment portion of tonight's meeting. Persons addressing the commission shall state his or her name and address and may speak for 3 minutes unless extended for 1 additional minute by the mayor. As a reminder, this is the time for public comment on items that are not on the agenda. If you have public comment on an item on the agenda, the time to do that is after the title is read into the record. The public comment period for that item is opened, and no comment shall be made related to the personal life or personal qualities of any person, and no language which would offend persons of ordinary sensibilities shall be permitted.
Mr. Lee, go ahead and come on up.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager. My name is Michael Rubin. I live at 16 Little Harbor Way, the week. I was here at the last commission meeting and the subject of time of construction. I'm going to mention that one more time. Right now, the time of construction is from Monday through Friday from 7 o'clock in the morning till 7 o'clock at night, 12 hours. And on Saturday from 1 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock in the evening. No construction on Sunday. We have many construction sites going on in Little Harbor. The noise is nonstop. It will be continuing for at least a year or two longer. It makes for a little difficult quality of life situation. It doesn't end. It's over Little Harbor, and the noise permeates everywhere and just doesn't cease to begin. The construction workers come at 6:30 in the morning and they kind of hang around, and at 7 o'clock they begin. And more often than not, they go well beyond 5 o'clock, usually till 6 o'clock or so. Rarely, absolutely, till 7. But what I'm requesting is that perhaps that we commend the time of construction in the residential area from 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock, Monday through Friday, and on Saturday from 9 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I know sometimes people think that it's better to get everything finished as soon as possible, but it's like watching a football game. You don't want to watch a game for 8 quarters. You want it to be 4 quarters and then watch it next week and enjoy the game. But we would like to enjoy our lifestyle, eating outside, talking with our family and friends, having children play, doing the homework in a quiet time past 5 o'clock. So with that, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Daniel Shanetsky. I live at 34 Keswick B, Deerfield Beach 33442. I want to say the beach, the shores of Deerfield Beach is the prime jewel in Deerfield Beach's palette. So with that, I want to congratulate, and I also want to give kudos to City Manager John Santucci for shepherding the shared sand nourishment with our neighbors Hillsborough and Boca Raton. It basically is going to provide savings, efficiency, and we're going to get sand to our shores in less time. The sand is pumped from the Boca Raton Inlet to nourish the Deerfield Beach eroding sand line. The dredged sand is half the cost of the sand, which was before they were hauling materials, the sand by trucks to the beach line. Now it's going to be a pipeline. Deerfield Beach needs about 30,000 cubic yards to shore up our South Beach in Deerfield Beach. The sand is delivered to its destination through a pipeline, like I said before, which is from the dredge site at the Boca Raton Inlet. Before, I think it would cost about $2.5 million for the trucks to haul the sand. Now it's only going to cost about $1.2 million. 75% of this will be contributed by FEMA, 12% will be contributed by the state. So this is a very big savings to our city, and the sand hopefully will be delivered by the end of March. So again, I want to give kudos to City Manager John Santucci for bringing this forward. Thank you.
His name's David, but we'll tell his brother John.
Yeah, it's David, I'm sorry, I apologize.
That's all right, Dan.
But
Thank you.
David Santucci, I apologize. Thank you very much.
Bill Gelser, 1102 Little Harbor Drive, 33441. Two things. I look at what we've got in our area. It's a lot of construction, a lot of traffic coming in and out of the village or out of the Little Harbor. But one of the things that's been going on for years, and it's exceptionally showing up now, is the traffic on Hillsborough Road in front of Little Harbor. And the reason I'm saying that is that there is so much traffic that you can't get out. Sometimes it takes like 3 to 5 minutes before you even get somebody that gives you a break. And coming in, the same thing. And when it's clear, people will gun their car and they're gonna shoot into the Little Harbor. And they're going 40 miles an hour right past the second house, which has got a lot of little children in it, and another one coming. And very upsetting to the people. All I'm saying to you is we need to have maybe a sign out there that says do not block entranceway. And I'd say, so people know that, they would have a red blinker, maybe yellow and red. But we cannot get into the Little Harbor. I mean, it's all the way back many times, and people are rude. They will not let you through. You try to inch out and you get past one, and then you got to gun it to get through the other lane. So that's what my whole goal today is to ask you if somebody else has already started talking about it. I don't know. I haven't been in town for about 6 months. So all I'm going to say is, can you do a research, do a checkup, see whether you can do something about this horrible entrance? I'm telling you, it's really bad. Many times you have to go beyond and turn around and come back up on the other side just so you can get into Little Harbor. That turn is terrible. And there's not only people going into Little Harbor, there's people trying to make a U-turn. And they're gonna be standing there forever trying to get the U-turn when all the traffic is there. So I'm looking at, what, 800 and some people a day coming into Florida. Our traffic is getting worse every day. I'm gonna ask, please consider it and see if you can do something about putting a sign, and especially one that has a blinker. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Sandra Jackson, 386 Southwest 35th Avenue in Deerfield, Florida. That's without the street. I'm gonna get a few copies.
Just give it to the city clerk, please.
Get it afterward.
Give it to the clerk, I'll give it to the individual.
Okay. Okay, what I have here is a reference. I came before you guys before. I also had emailed the city manager, and I did speak to the assistant city manager also before in reference to this. I'm coming again, and I'm coming again as a resident of Deerfield Beach. We are a taxpayer, which I own 2 properties in Deerfield Beach. As you know, back in May, I ran into a pothole. My tire was bust and went flat. I had to get a new tire. Unfortunately, it was a weekend, holiday weekend. I have still not settled the claim as of yet because I feel like it's not fair to me, and I want to know what the city intention is. I had to get a tire that weekend, and they did not have the tire I had on my car in stock, which the tire on my car was much more expensive than the one that I put on there because I needed a tire because I have rock flats on my car. You guys referred me over to your risk management. I guess they handle the claim, and I'm not sure if that's the workman comps department, because I don't think it's a workman comps claim. But I think it's John Estrin. Eastern is the company that handle your claim. They only want to pay me for one tire. They didn't want to pay for the alignment. Now they do want to pay for the alignment and also the balancing. I feel it's not right because I have a different tire on my car. Like I said before, my car do not ride the same. I don't feel like it's fair because it's not my fault because a pothole was in the road. And I need to get another tire. And I think my claim should have been paid for the 2 tires, the alignment, and also the balance. So I'm coming to the city, the mayor, the commissioners. I know I spoke to the system manager, and I guess this is all they want to pay without paying for an additional tire. So I want to know, as you being my commissioner, my mayor, and all the commissioners here, because we are one city, no matter who the commissioners are, can you guys do something about it, override what needs to be done? Because it's not fair to me. And I'm quite sure if this happened to anybody else in the city, they would feel the same way. So I'm again to you guys again, because if there's something in the road and you're responsible for the road, I don't think it's fair that the residents have to fly their pockets. Where I could have really got a more expensive tire what I had, but the tire was not in stock. Yeah.
Sure.
But the tire was not in stock. It was a holiday weekend, no one had it. So I had to get the tire, the one tire with a different tire. So if you guys can do anything, I will appreciate it.
So you're looking right now to make sure they replace the one tire that doesn't match the other 3, right?
No, I want them to, I replaced the one tire.
Right.
I feel like they should pay for 2 tires, not one. I need the same tire on the car because my car does not ride the same.
The tire that was burst,
Yes,
you replaced it with a different brand.
yes, sir.
And they're saying now that they'll pay the alignment, the balancing, they paid for that.
They haven't
one.
paid anything as of yet.
Yeah, but this is what they're offering.
They want to only pay for the one tire, when I feel they should pay for 2 tires because I had to get a different tire.
Well, if we give you a new tire to replace that one that you got, okay, we'll pay you for the one that you got, then we get you another one that matches all the others. That's what you're asking.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Tom Schisler, 59 Middle Harbor Way. Just wanted to speak about the construction in the neighborhoods. I know Mike came up and talked a little bit about it. I spent almost 4 years living in the middle of 3 major huge house construction projects. And it is very difficult on the neighbors and people that live near them. Fully support his request to change the construction times to 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. So I don't think it would be much of a hardship on the contractors. I think it's just a matter of them doing a better job of planning, and that would be fine. I would also support Mike's request to change the Saturday construction hours to be 9 to 3, to go till 5 o'clock on Saturday. And it ruins your weekend. They're out there pounding. They've got significant amounts of mechanical equipment making a lot of noise. It's really unpleasant to be a neighbor. So I just wanted to come up and talk about that. I do fully support Mike's request to change the hours for construction to 8 to 5 and 9 to 3 on the weekends. I'd also ask the commission to take a look at backup generator noise regulation. I currently live next to a house that has a backup generator that's the size of a small car. And when that backup generator runs, it sounds like I'm on a runway. And there doesn't seem to be any regulation in the Deerfield Beach code to limit the amount of noise that those things make. And I know in Lighthouse Point and in Pompano Beach, there are noise limitations on those generators and requirements for noise screening. And that doesn't seem to be applying in Deerfield Beach. I'm hoping that Deerfield Beach would be able to put in the same kind of regulations. Certainly would make living next to a backup generator a lot more pleasant. And I think in today's world, we're going to see more and more houses with backup generators. And I think the city does need to regulate them appropriately.
How often does backup generator run?
It runs at least once a month, 20 minutes.
Once a month for 20 minutes.
Yes, and if the power ever fails and that thing runs overnight, there will be no way that anyone sleeps near that generator.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Good evening, Mayor Commissioners. Katie Freitag, 418 Southeast 2nd Street. I also agree with some of the other residents regarding the hours for construction. I live in a neighborhood that has had 3 very, very large construction projects take place over the last 4 years, and the construction is nonstop. My question is, when the construction is going on past hours, are we calling code enforcement? Are they coming out that day to stop it immediately, or is it leave a message and they'll come out on Monday or Tuesday and have a talk with the builder? So that's my question. If we get the hours changed, it would be nice for people to at least be able to enjoy their Saturday afternoons and Sundays without having to deal with hammering, chiseling, you name it, jackhammering, the whole 9 yards. And not only that, just the construction traffic on the streets. While all the workers are there, they're parked up and down the streets. You try and have a party at your own house, there's no place for your guests to park because the house 2 doors down is under construction, and there's no place for any of your guests to park on a Saturday for a baby shower or anything along those lines. Welcome aboard, Heather. There's a great, fabulous Brazilian event on Saturday from 12 till 2 at Villages of Hillsborough Park. I was surprised that there wasn't more advertisement for this event. I just found it was not on the website today. It was not on the website. It was not on Facebook until today. So I think we should have a little bit more advertisement for such a great event. We're spending a lot of money to host this event. It's only for 2 hours. We'd like to get a lot of people out there. So definitely a little bit more advanced advertising would be great. We had a lot of discussion at the last meeting regarding Airbnbs. And I was curious as to find out who governs the fees for these Airbnbs, and are the owners provided the fees and the stipulations prior to them opening up their houses for rental? And if there's a chance that we are in the ones that govern these fees, can we make these fees so harsh that it will make it less beneficial for the owners to rent to very rowdy large groups of people that do not respect the neighbors that live here regularly? MLK weekend was a great weekend, celebrating a great leader. Thanks to the staff for putting together the day of service at the last minute. To the Kiwanis Club at Deerfield Beach West for putting together the great breakfast, and the parade was awesome. I didn't win it. Maybe next year. Okay, so I've talked to a couple of different commissioners. I did not get a chance to talk to the mayor. I did get a call back from David Ciancucci, City Manager David Ciancucci, regarding the building, the new brewery building, which is in the cove at 1500 Southeast 3rd Court. When the plans were put in front of the city, the plans were to have 2 parking spaces. May I ask one more minute? Yes, please, thank you. Their request was to reduce the front parking spaces on the north side of the building by 2 and remove those to the back of the building. I have pictures where I went today and had a conversation with the builder and city staff on site. There are no parking spaces on the back of that building. He flat out said, the builder that I spoke with flat out said, we're not putting any parking here. They have to use the parking over there, pointing to the area which is already taken up by the Cove, by Patricia's, by those different locations. I did get a call from David stating that his, that they are going to be working on it, that Eric Powers did go and take a look at it today. But my question is, why wasn't this checked before now? They're gonna have to tear up their concrete. They're gonna have to remove steps. They're gonna have to rearrange things to put the parking spaces on the back. And if they say, well, what can you do now? I'd like to see what the city's willing to say to them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else for public? No, you're done. Thank you.
Good evening, Wilson Moore, 331 Northwest Second Terrace, Deerfield Beach. Couple items. Number one, the light at Northwest Second Avenue, which you exit out our community right there in front of the grocery store. Is there any way that light can be adjusted? Because that's a 2-minute light. That's the only light besides Third Avenue that we have to exit out of our community to get to Hillsborough Boulevard. So that light can be adjusted to at least give that light a little bit more change time coming from that direction to exit out to go either east or west on Hillsborough, we can appreciate it. The Northeast Focal Point project, we are building a new Northeast Focal Point community. That, once again, is a construction site, but all the dirt and the debris that's coming off that construction site is affecting all those homes along Northwest Second Terrace. And the dirt on our roof from that construction site, when it rains, it pours down on our driveway and all over the place. And so we're continuously cleaning our driveway. Now, when that project is done, we're gonna have to clean our whole entire roof because of all that construction that's coming off that site. So I just want to know what the procedure is gonna be for us to get reimbursed. We have to do that for our roof on our corner right there. The other thing is along that same construction site on Northwest Second Terrace, those lights are out and that is completely dark. So if they can repair those lights, if they have, I don't know if they turn them off to provide coverage for the construction site or something, but those lights are definitely out.
And that's Northeast Second Terrace.
Right, Northwest Second Terrace.
Northwest.
Yes. That's all I have. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Anyone else for public? Close it, public. A couple of things. As far as the entrance into Little Harbor, that's just poor design, and you suffer from what a lot of neighborhoods, unfortunately, in Deerfield Beach do, much like waterways in District 4, is you've got one entrance, one exit. And what's worse is you don't have a light there, and they won't put a light. It's too close to the nearest other lights that exist. So actually putting any kind of lighting in there is not going to happen from that DOT. Now, as far as putting in a sign, I think you nailed it on the head, though, and saying that people are rude. If you think a flashing sign is going to allow people to let you in, come on. You can put one up, but don't expect miracles. And I'm not even sure if we can put one up. So I think we have to deal with FDOT on that and find out. Yeah, FDOT in the county on that, find out if they can do that. But don't expect that to be a problem solver over there. As far as the construction hours go, if you go with what's suggested, you're losing a full day's worth of work. So that means every week the construction's going on, you're adding an extra day they lose that adds to the time of the construction. Pick your poison. You seem to have, but others don't want that. Meaning you're one of two people that have said that's what you want. There are other people that say, get it done with. I don't want to deal with it. So there's two different areas of opinion to look at that, to consider. Now, I do agree on the Saturday hours. I mean, Saturday hours, the extra 2 hours going into that, I agree. I think people have earned their time to do that. I'm a little more open-minded to that. I am not as open-minded. I'd like to hear from more people because I've heard from people. I've been doing this a long time. I've heard people both ways. I've been an HOA president for years in the city. So I've got about 20 years under my belt of dealing with this sort of issue in construction. Every neighborhood goes through redevelopment. Some neighborhoods out west with a hot area that we've known for a while. Tear down the old, put up the new. You guys are experiencing that tremendously in Little Harbor. I certainly empathize with you because I think what you're getting is a very small, much smaller enclave, and you're getting massive houses that are replacing much smaller houses. So certainly I'm empathetic to that, and I think we need to think about what we can do in there a little bit. It is going to be hard to control that traffic, but we can look at maybe ways to make sure that people realize that there is that they need to kind of grant some access over there. I think what I've experienced is more people say get the job done as opposed to shortening the hours. That's been the overall feel that I've gotten from people over the years on that. But I understand the Saturday hours, and I certainly would be open to that, be useful to what was suggested. The issue when it comes to are people calling in, they're going after hours? I don't know. Are they calling in? Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But when they do call, when it comes to the hours of operation with noise, obviously that's not something that you wait until the next day to address. So yes, when we get those calls, we deal with that. As far as a one-off of someone having a baby shower on Saturday or someplace to park because there's construction, guys, get over it. Be honest with you. That's going to happen no matter where you're at. There's no foolproof way to fix that. You think there is, there's not. You got to get construction done. You got to be realistic in what happens. It is going to be an inconvenience for a small amount of time, without a doubt. But you gotta deal with that. There's no magic way to legislate that and fix that. Because then what you're gonna do is handcuff yourself down the road, and you're gonna come back and complain that things weren't done fast enough, and why is it still going on? And I want construction done at my house, and there's no place for anybody to park when they want to do construction on my house. You're gonna be inconvenienced. That happens in life. You're gonna have to deal with it. I'm just being realistic. I'm not gonna promise you that we can fix all of that. But there are things you can do, and there are things that are realistic to be done. I love the idea that if you've got generators that are backup generators that are being regulated in other cities, we have the ability to put some kind of controls in on that. I think that's a good idea. That's something that's worth exploring. I would suggest and hope that staff would explore that, at least at my request, everybody else's request into that is. I think we can be more vigilant when it comes to monitoring the construction that is done when these things are going on. Screening is going to be limited to what we can do. I certainly would be interested in finding out what kind of screening we can do to eliminate some of the debris that's going on with a large project like that. What we're dealing with the Center for Activation. As far as reimbursement for roofs getting dirty, that's just not going to happen. Not going to happen. But because you're not going to be able to prove that's where all the dirt came from or anything like that, because it's an entire mess. It's not. I just don't see that happen. But as far as screening and trying to do what we can do and making sure that at least when there is dust or things like that, it can be watered down in order to prevent it spreading around. Those are things that we can do. We can be a little more vigilant than that. If staff has any other ideas beyond what I'm suggesting, please let me know. But I'm just trying to be realistic in all of you. I don't want to hand you a line and not come through for you. I'm just trying to be realistic with some of these requests. As far as the Brazilian Music Festival, yes, the event we're having for 2 hours, that has been advertised. We talked about it here at the commission meeting a couple times. I'm glad to see it's up there on the website now, but certainly food for thought in the future on that. Adjusting the lighting on Hillsborough Boulevard, that is something we can talk to the county about and FDOT. They regulate that. Part of the problem with it is its location. That location with the railroad tracks and its proximity to that major intersection, Dixie Highway, could be problematic in doing that. It might have to do with some timing that has to do with railroads. Certainly, I'm sure staff will look into that. I'm just trying to relay to you with my experience in the past that can be problematic. Okay. Did I cover everything? Did I miss anything? Oh, Sanders Tires. Anybody want to comment on that?
Yes, I would. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. There is some sensitivity that I think that should be exercised in this situation, though it may be somewhat convoluted. You know, the city should always be there to serve its residents. Now, you have a situation where, unfortunately, an incident occurred. No matter how you look at it, in the end, if there's inconvenience reasonable that will allow the residents to walk away happy, and I think that that's important, then we need to make that adjustment. It was not her fault, and she's asking that the tires match. I don't think that that's unreasonable. When we made the offer to replace the one tire and to make the alignment, that's a fair offer. However, the right thing to do would be to make her happy. Her tires were all the same before. Her vehicle rode the way that it needed to ride. And so, unfortunately, this is a situation that happened. I think that we're sometimes obligated to look at situations as they occur and try to make our residents, you know, make sure that they're happy and they're treated fairly. So I think the thing to do would be to accommodate this situation as far as the tires is concerned.
I think making someone happy with a lot of a bigger road to hoe than it is making someone whole. I think that's what needs to happen. They didn't cause this. It's an issue. You know, if it's prorated the price of the new tire based on what the tread was on the old tire, if that's the way our company does it, that's fine. The person needs to be made whole as far as I'm concerned. They didn't cause this problem. Just make them whole, get them back to where they were. before they hit that pothole. Whatever that takes to do that and be done. Okay, I don't think I can make you happy, Sandra, but I can at least try to make you whole.
I'll make it close to happen.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you very much. I understand your comments with regards to the construction. Some of these homes in Little Harbor take years to make. The construction goes on for 2 and 3 years. And there's 4 or 5 homes going up there right now. And who knows how many more. So these residents have been living with this for 2, 3, 4 years already. And they've got 2, 3, 4 years to go. I would like to see staff look into, reducing the construction hours at least on Saturday, to, from 9 to 5 to 9 to 3. Because again, your whole Saturday is ruined. Because Little Harbor, it echoes. It's a closed-in area, and it bounces off of the houses. And these houses now, there's not a lot of space in between them. So it's almost like you're in the Grand Canyon in some of these areas. I don't know what can be done, but I really would like staff to at least explore that option of reducing the Saturday hours from 9 to 3 to give these residents, a little bit of peace of mind.
Thanks, Vice Mayor. Commissioner Class.
I have a question about that. You're telling me that it may go on for 4 or 5 years. If reducing the hours makes it 7 years.
Up to 1 hour a week.
I'm not disputing Saturday. We were talking about the overall reduced hours, et cetera, et cetera. The difficulty with that would be that instead of 4 years, it could turn into 7. It's, how do you win? Okay, so after 5 o'clock, they can't do construction, but instead of it ending, it's gonna go on forever. Where is the balance? And is a survey been taken of all the residents? Which would they prefer? Shorter hours or 7 years instead of 4? Who's gonna, there's no way to make everybody happy. There just isn't. So I think staff, if they can, send letters out or take a survey to that area and get a majority ruling of the people that answer. Do they want shorter period of time with a little more discomfort, or a little less discomfort and double the time, or add a 25% of the time of construction? Something else to consider. The longer construction goes on, the higher prices go, both in labor and material. Do we really want to drive the cost of construction up to a point where affordable housing, modest housing, becomes very expensive housing because we've driven the cost up by delaying the construction? These are all considerations. There's no winner. There's just no winner. I think the people that live in that neighborhood have to get together, take a survey, and then present it to the city. Then we have at least more than 2 or 3 or 4 people coming here and saying, you got to do this. We need a real consensus. What would you like? Shorter time or a longer time? A little more inconvenience now, or let it drag on forever and drive the prices up? Because construction costs, as we know, in the last 10 years have never gone down, only up. So it's, how do you win? Who's gonna win? Nobody. And that's my opinion. Nobody wins here. Because no matter which way we go, we cut construction to people that say, what, it's gonna go on for another year? I'll shoot myself. They're gonna be angry and they're gonna protest. The other way around, saying, I wanna play ball with my kids in the backyard and the construction noise prevents me from doing it. And if you cut that out, if you leave it alone, I'm unhappy. And if you cut it out, the other people are unhappy. how do we win? How do we make everybody happy when you have two areas? Longer or more inconvenience in a shorter period of time? That's the problem. I don't have the answer, but I think a survey should be taken of the entire affected area so that we can make an intelligent decision based on what the majority of the people want, rather than a few that come here.
So,
Vice Mayor.
thank you very much. First of all, I don't know if you're talking about a survey just for this area that affects the entire city is something that we shouldn't do. I mean, if it's gonna be affecting the entire city, it's something that I still think staff needs to explore. I'm not mandating or even suggesting this dais mandate that. I just think staff needs to look into it, explore it, see what the best option, it may be where we're at. It may be the best option available.
I agree.
But I do think that this is probably a very old code, and sometimes things need to be modified. I don't know, but I'd like staff to at least look into it and say, hey, is it worth modifying or not? That's all I'm asking.
Commissioner Preston.
Thank you, Mayor. One of the things that this commission is always obligated to do, and that's whenever its residents is speaking to them, we're obligated to listen, to hear. Now, there are certain people that have come before this commission saying the same thing all the time. So that means that their time is being given to an issue that's in their community. We need to understand that, we need to hear that. And so that if we're hearing a complaint of construction, we can all be sympathetic in that if it were happening close to us, we would not be happy as well. And so there are certain people that are coming from Little Harbor voicing the same thing. I think that we need to hear that. And when you say take a survey, the majority of the people, how then do we define majority? If you take a survey of 30 homes and, 25 says, reduce it and 5 says no, or it's really close, how do you do it? I think that we ought to look at reducing that time, because the weekends is a time of rest before you begin to toil in the upcoming week. And so to give them a little rest, give them a little peace, I think that that's the right thing to do. And I think it's also important for us is that whatever we can do, whatever power that we have, coming from the city of Deerfield Beach, it always must be complemented to the residents for whatever issues they may have. So if they're not resting as good as they would if this noise, that we have to hear that, and we have to look to eliminate that. So we're obligated to hear their complaint and also their passion to do that. And I think it's incumbent upon us to respond. Thank you.
Thank you. I think maybe this might be one of the few opportunities that we might be able to make. Try to split it in half. And maybe if we extend those hours to what they currently are, if we do reduce them, maybe grant for hours to be extended under special request circumstances by a developer. We only have 2 people complaining about this, by the way. Well, the one person that did complain did say that they rarely go to 7. So what I don't want to do is be too stringent and have an issue with trying to get work done, saying, look, there's a difference between allowing them to stay 1 more extra hour, 2 more extra hours, compared to them having to come up the next day. Anything about the construction, anything about it at all. It's not as simple as they just plan better. Come back the next day and have to logistically do that. When your next day is scheduled to be in a job, on the other side of the county. Doesn't always work that way. So there needs to be a little common sense in here. So if we're going to look at that, changing it, maybe have it done under a special request circumstance. They have to have a decent reason why, but that might be something we may want to consider. We've always talked about and made rules in the past to make sure that we want to be development friendly, because we do need to have redevelopment, but we also want to be stringent. And again, we're hearing from 2 people. And I've heard from a lot more over that over time.
Yep.
So we do both, but it's something we can certainly look into, for sure, and explore. Staff, is that okay?
And my concern is the Saturday.
Sure.
Not even really.
We can have staff look into this.
That's all I ask.
Awesome.
We are now at consent board appointments. Items 4 and 5 are on consent for board appointments.
Is there anyone from the public that want to comment on item number 4 or 5? Let's see. Commission, you have any polls of item 4 or 5? No. Okay. We can do it all together then. Gotcha.
That's correct.
You want to read 4 and 5 into the record? We can go from there, or do we need to do that?
You don't need to if you're going to approve them on consent.
All right.
Approve them as a slate.
Yes.
Motion to approve 4 and 5.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Parnas, second by Vice Mayor Hudak. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. Thank you, those volunteers.
We are now at consent agreements and expenditure requests. Items 6 through 10 are currently on consent.
Is there anyone from the public who care to comment on items 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10? Don't see anyone online. Anyone here? 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10?
All
Commission, any polls for you? No.
Make a motion to approve.
No, hold on. That's no issues. No, the public will have a chance to look through everything. Amazing. Okay, 6, 7, 8, 9 are closed to the public. We can do it all as one.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Now we have a motion, a second, we have roll call, please.
Commissioner Drosky,
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas,
Yes.
Commissioner Preston,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Huda,
Yes.
Mayor Dan.
Yes.
Okay, item number 11 is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, approving the third, oh, I'm sorry. So I think items number 11 and 12 are getting presented together. So I'm going to go ahead and read those into the record. Item number 13, staff is requesting a deferral on that item. So item number 11, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, approving a third work authorization with Coastal Protection Engineering LLC and the Town of Hillsborough Beach for Phase 2 construction phase services for the beach renourishment project, an amount not to exceed $183,463.70 for the city's 50% share of the cost, providing for execution and effective date. Item number 12 is a resolution of the City Commission of Deerfield Beach, Florida, authorizing the city manager to enter into an interlocal agreement with the City of Boca Raton related to the City of Boca Raton's bid number 2023-06-FB, including the bid alternates and the joint beach renourishment project to be performed in the City of Deerfield Beach, providing for an effective date. Are you going to touch on item number 13? I know staff is requesting a deferral. I'm just going to read it into the record. We'll need separate votes on each one of these items. Item number 13 is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, approving an agreement with Great Lakes Dredge and Dock Company LLC for the city's joint beach renourishment project with the Town of Hillsborough Beach, utilizing the terms of the City of Boca Raton bid number 2023-06-FB and the contract and the mandatory alternates provided for in the bid, the amount not to exceed $6 million, providing for execution and an effective date.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. Thanks for letting me talk tonight. My name is Patrick Vargas. I'm the city's coastal and waterway coordinator. Today I'm going to talk about our proposed beach renourishment project in Town of Hillsborough Beach and the City of Boca Raton. I'm going to talk about our recent settlement agreement that the City Commission entered with the Town of Hillsborough Beach and its terms. We give a brief project history for each of our local municipalities and our nourishment history. I'm going to talk about what's on tonight's agenda for your consideration. I'm going to talk about some steps taken since the agreement was executed. And I'm going to introduce our coastal engineer, who will discuss project overview, bid results, estimated costs, and construction time. And then myself and the consultant will be available for any questions. Next slide, please. So the City of Deerfield Beach and Town of Hillsborough Beach entered into a settlement agreement on October 8th, 2020. And in that agreement, it called for cooperation on engineering, permitting, funding, monitoring, management, maintenance, and renourishment of Deerfield and Hillsborough beaches. This agreement also required us to jointly construct a beach renourishment project every 5 years for a total of up to 6 projects over the course of 30 years. We also conduct semi-annual beach monitoring surveys to maximize opportunity for third-party funding from FDP. And in the agreement, it said that our first renourishment was to be constructed between 2021 and 2022. Next slide, please. So beach renourishment in this region is not new. The town of Hillsborough Beach first constructed their beach renourishment project in 1972. We followed and partnered with them in 1998. And as well in 2011, these three projects were offshore projects where we dredged the sand from offshore, from an offshore borrow area. And the town and the city have also worked together on upland projects where we truck the sand in from a sand mine in Central Florida. Next slide, please. On the agenda tonight, we have 3 items for your consideration. The consultant contract for construction services with Coastal Protection Engineering for construction administration and project certification. We have a resolution on the agenda to give the city manager authorization to execute a piggyback contract with Great Lakes Dredge and Dock for the city of Boca Raton solicitation. And we also have a resolution for the city manager to have authorization to execute an interlocal agreement with the city of Boca Raton. Next slide, please. So what have we done since the agreement was executed? We've redesigned the project to meet the settlement agreement specifications. We've modified our existing permits to allow for the offshore sand from the Ebb Shoal and Boca Raton Inlet. We've coordinated with the city of Boca Raton and the town of Hillsborough Beach to maximize cost savings and sharing, excuse me, from Florida Department of Environmental Protection. We continue to submit and report quarterly and annually to the local government funding request through the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. And we've negotiated with the city of Boca Raton how we're going to split the mobilization cost as well as the sand cost. And we've decided that, or we've come to an agreement that sand cost will be based on sand placement in each region on a prorated schedule. And we also had multiple bid approaches to get the best price for our project. And with that, I'm going to introduce Tom Piero, our principal coastal engineer. He's going to talk about the project and some of the bid results that we received.
Thank you, Patrick. For the record, Tom Piero, principal engineer of Coastal Protection Engineering, and consultant to the city of Deerfield Beach. Patrick asked me to go into a little bit more detail on the project, and so that you can be better informed about all the different things that have gone on. He has done a great job explaining to you the benefits of this project, and I really would like to emphasize that this regional coordination that's happening right now, not only between you and the town of Hillsborough Beach, but with the city of Boca Raton as well, moving sand from inlet and moving it down the coast is unique. It really is something that should be done more, but it's fantastic that it's come together here, and it's highly supported by the state of Florida as well, as we'll see in some of the cost sharing discussions we'll have. Just to give you an overview of what this project is. Primarily, it's to comply with the settlement agreement that you all executed with the town of Hillsborough Beach. One of the requirements of that agreement was to complete the first project by the end of 2023. So we're right on target to do that because this project will be complete before the summer. It is a beach nourishment project. There's a dune component in your area as well. Those dimensions will be adjusted during construction to blend in with the existing dune and kind of put as much sand on the beach as feasible. The sand source for the project is the Boca Raton Inlet. You see a picture there kind of in the middle of the slide, that yellow box that's there. That's called the Ebb Shoal. That's the source for the material. So you'll see it's not actually inside the inlet. Also has nothing to do with the dredge that sits in Boca Inlet all the time. That's for separate sort of bypassing that the city does. This will be a large cutterhead dredge that comes in to dredge that Ebb Shoal, pipe the sand down the beach. The photo you see just below it is more or less what you might expect at the other end of that pipe. And the sand is coming out of the beach onto your area, coming out of the pipe onto your area. Let's move on to bulldozers and put into the template that we defined. As Patrick mentioned, the mobilization cost is prorated. I'll explain a little bit more about that. And a very important point here is that all of these costs that we're showing you here today are eligible for 50% cost sharing by the state of Florida. You're essentially getting this project at 50 cents on the dollar. It's an incredible deal, and the prices from the contract from the bid were also very good. Turning your attention to the image that's on the right side of the screen. First, I'll just note that you see the orange line there kind of
delineating Deerfield Beach from the town of Hillsborough Beach. I'm sure you're familiar with that location. And then all the way to the right side, you see that big long green line. That's essentially the extent of the project that's permitted by the state of Florida and the Army Corps of Engineers. That's the limits that we have to work within. The other green box just on the other side is the area that's covered by your settlement agreement. The reason that's important is because you all signed a legal agreement and it is within the entire permitted area. So we were able to use the existing permits in order to get this project going. And then you'll see a location there, which is the DFB fill area. That's the extent of your project. And then you'll see a gray dashed line that goes down the town of Hillsborough Beach fill area. You'll also hear me talk about the word extension a couple times. When I'm referring to the north extension is the area north of the settlement agreement area that you'll be placing sand in. And the extension for the town of Hillsborough Beach is the area about from that R marker there, R9, south to the end of the permitted area. The town of Hillsborough Beach today, I presented at their commission meeting, and they gave us direction to go ahead and design a project for that full extension area that has benefits to you all financially that I'll explain. Overall, the fill limits in Deerfield is about 1,800 feet, and you can see the street addresses there. The volume as of our December 2022 survey was roughly 33,000 cubic yards. That's going to be updated again when we get to construction surveys, but it will not change dramatically from that number. Next slide, please. So let's talk a little bit about the bid results. There were 2 bids, and we did this, as Patrick mentioned, on purpose to try to get pricing for 2 different ways of doing the project so that we can come to you and give you the most affordable way to achieve the requirements of your settlement agreement. The city of Boca Raton took the lead on the Edgeshore dredging. They received 1 bid from a company called Great Lakes Dredge and Dock, very well-known dredger in the industry. And some of the key points there, we have a mobilization, demobilization cost of about $4 million. That's what it costs to bring this dredge that you see pictured on the right. That might not be the exact dredge, but that's a covered head dredge. Just to get it to the site before it pumps any sand because of the scope of the equipment. The unit price for placing sand within the settlement agreement area was $13.55 per cubic yard. From my perspective, I haven't seen a price that good in years. They're often much higher than that, sometimes up to $40, $50 per cubic yard. I think there's a function here that it's a relatively straightforward project for the dredger, and they may have some equipment in the area, so that was very beneficial. Then there's the north extension at $30 per cubic yard. It sounds high, but it's only 2,000 cubic yards, so it's not really material in terms of the overall cost. This type of project will be shorter in duration, but fairly intensive. The pipe's going to come down on the beach, the sand's going to come out very, very quickly, and the contractor will leave the project pack up and go home. Whereas on the other side, a truck haul project is technically, ends up being a little bit longer duration and more continuous construction. But we did go ahead and bid the truck haul project to try to see how the prices might compare. There was one successful bidder at the end of that process. Eastman Aggregates, also again, well-known beach trucking contractor. The mobilization, demobilization for that type of project is lower, of course, because you don't have to make the dredge. But the unit prices were significantly higher in this bid, ranging from $56 a cubic yard all the way up to $125 per cubic yard. We're literally talking about an order of magnitude more cost if we were from trucking. So needless to say, we're here today requesting your permission to move forward with the Edgeshore dredging project, City Book. Next slide, please. So here we have a mock-up of some costs. I'm not going to get into the details of it. I'll give you a couple of points that are important. And also, while these numbers are kind of parsed out to the literal cents here, these are just estimates based on bid documents and the actual prices that came in. These numbers will be updated based on the actual volumes that are placed on the beach. One of the things I wanted to point out is that the mobilization cost, as we mentioned, is going to be shared 2 ways. First, it is shared with the city of Boca Raton, and then it's also shared with the town of Hillsborough Beach. And subject to the agreements that the city attorney is preparing and negotiating, it's likely that that cost will be prorated based on the volume of sand. You've noticed the volume of sand is relatively low. So your prorated share of that mobilization is equally low. The town of Hillsborough Beach, again, directed us today to place somewhere in the range of 200,000 cubic yards of sand. So their rate will be higher, the cost share will be higher on that, and the city of Boca Raton likely will also place around 200,000 cubic yards. So a great benefit to you there. The other point that I'll make is that if you add the total of the Deerfield Beach cost there and the town of Hillsborough cost, it's roughly 4.5 million. That total price may go up depending on what the town of Hillsborough eventually requests to place, but not above the 6 million that I think I saw in the resolution that you're considering here today. Your cost is likely to go down from these estimates because this was based on the bid documents. And as I mentioned, the town of Hillsborough is going to place more, which is actually a benefit to you because of that prorated share of the mobilization. Next slide. And this is the final slide that I believe that we have. While this beach project, the actual dredging time is probably relatively short, maybe 10 or 20 days of actual time of sand coming out of the pipe. It takes them a little bit of time to run the pipe down the beach, get set up, mobilize to your site, put the sand on the beach, just weather delays and so on. So we're expecting to anticipate the construction spanning the months of March and April. We have to be done by April 30th due to the sea turtle nesting season, and all indications are that that's not going to be an issue. In terms of what you might see on the beach or what your residents might see on the beach, the sand is coming through a 30-inch pipeline. Now, that might not sound like much, but on the beach, 30-inch pipeline is about that big. It's pretty significant. And I brought a picture in here from one of our projects from North Carolina. The reason I selected this one is not only because it shows the pipeline on the beach, there's also a pier there. And that's kind of what we'll expect to see. The pipeline will come under the pier and extend its way all the way down to the fill area down near the town of Hillsborough Beach. You can see perhaps the little sand ramps that go over that pipeline. Those are common that the contractors prepare so that the public can actually walk over the pipe safely and access the beach while the pipe is in place. And if there's not enough, we can ask them to build more. If there's a specific location, we can ask them to put one there as well. And while these construction areas will be close to the public can access, again, the ocean over these over the pipeline in the areas outside the active construction. If you remember that picture of the sand coming out of that pipeline, that's a pretty dramatic and intense operation, and we don't want the public near there, and the contractor calls that the hot zone, and they will be excluded from that area. As Patrick mentioned to me, also Ocean Rescue will be available to help direct guests over the pipeline in safe areas. So I believe that concludes our presentation, and be available for questions along with staff.
Thank you. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess the first question is, and you probably said it, but I just want to reiterate or hear it again. This construction is to be from March or April 30th.
That's correct. It might
March
not.
1st or
Well, we don't have that exact schedule, and it really depends on, frankly, weather, because the arms of equipment is out in the ocean. It will not be 2 months of active construction. It will be some sub period of maybe 30 days of active construction within that 2-month window. So I don't have a date today as to when that construction will start, but certainly.
So while the active construction is going on, will residents still have access to the beach, to these sand and those ramps?
Outside the area of active construction, yes, they will. And so I can explain that a little bit more. So where the placement area for this is the southern 700 feet or something of the city. That's the active construction area. The entire rest of the length of the city, all the way up to the northern limit of the city of Boca Raton, will look largely like that picture, and the public will be able to access across the pipe.
And you pull up the presentation that shows where the actual sand is. You pull the presentation.
You slide back maybe 2. That one right there.
Okay.
So obviously we're only showing here a very small subset of the city of Deerfield Beach, the very southern end, 1,800 feet in this case. The pipeline will extend from that northern limit roughly where the Cove property is, all the way north, basically to the inlet, along the beach. You'll come under the pier and go all the way down. When we get to this area, contractor will probably close off somewhere between 500 to 1,000 foot of beach at a time. And as the pipeline moves and the construction project progresses, that hot zone will progress with it.
I move south or moves north.
It will move south. And when I say move, let me be clear. The pipe itself isn't moving, they're adding more pipe to it as they're building the beach, so the pipe is being lengthened, I think is a better way to explain. And then once they clear the border into the town of Hillsborough, that area of beach will likely be opened by the contractor, again with sand ramps.
Right, because construction.
Your construction is going to go very quick. It's 33,000 cubic yards. That dredge that I showed you a picture of there can easily do 50,000 cubic yards in a day. It's not likely to be one day for here because they have to throttle the dredge and so on and so forth. But those dredges are extremely powerful. They're bringing a booster pump, and your section will go very quickly.
So the pipe will be there for 6 weeks, but the access to that area was probably.
Yes, I think that's a fair estimate.
Thank you, Commissioner Preston. Thank you, Mayor. I was watching as you were going through the presentation. And the thing that I was challenged with most was I saw nothing talking about the environmental concerns. What happens with possible damage to reefs and again, the environment. I remember many years ago, the city of Deerfield Beach had, they were dredging, same sort of thing. And they said there would not be any problem. And there was a lot of problems. The fact is that all of the fish habitat and all of those concerns dramatically changed. The fish just went away because it disturbed the environment. And so I don't think that something of this magnitude can happen without some disturbance. The question becomes how much? And I saw nothing about that, the environmental concern. Could you touch on that a little bit, please?
Sure thing, and thank you for the question. I did not get into the details of all the regulatory permits that are involved in this project because that could be a presentation on its own. But there are intense environmental reviews that we all have to go through to get what I have referred here to as the permitted project areas. And all of the things that you just talked about, the nearshore reefs, the offshore reefs, the sea turtle nesting habitats, shorebirds, and a lot of environmental resources are considered in those permits, and there's regulations built into those permits and conditions that we have to follow, not only during construction, but after construction to ensure that the impacts on those environments are temporary and negligible.
Deerfield Beach has an international fishing pier, and of course, we parade our beach because there's a lot of advantages. And for it to remain an international fishing pier, people don't have to catch fish. Don't catch any fish, then they'll come. So it's a concern. So thank you.
Yeah, if I can make one more comment about that as well. The sand for this project, since it's coming from the Boca Raton Inlet, is first of all beach sand. It came off the beach and ended up in the inlet. Second of all, it's what we call washed, meaning that it has been rolled around by the surf so many times that all the fine grained stuff, the stuff that makes this disturbance that you're talking about, has largely been washed away. And so when we put the sand on the beach, there are requirements that we keep it turbidity is what it's called, down to a certain level. And if the turbidity crosses some threshold, project has to stop until the turbidity goes back to normal. So while I agree with you, there are some projects, maybe in the past, maybe in this area, maybe in other areas, that have had turbidity problems. This sand is of such high quality because it's already beach sand that that's not likely to be an issue. But there are preventative measures in place in case of it.
Thank you.
Is there any from the public who care to comment on this? Public. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
I can make a motion to approve.
Second.
And that's item number 11, correct? For roll call
Yes.
position.
Before we vote on item number 11, I just want to add, I want to make sure the staff is notifying the business community as far as the impact of this project going on the beach, whether it be hotels or anything like that. To make sure they're aware of that.
Yeah, Mayor, upon passage, we're gonna put signage there out there on the beach itself, and we will make sure that the businesses know what is happening and why it's happening.
Excellent. Thank you. And just to point out, this is a case of you want it to take a really long time construction on the beach, or you want it to take a really short time. So, not all situations fit. Every situation is a little bit different. This is one we want to get done as quick as possible. Okay. We have a motion. Second. We have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Drosky,
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas.
Yes.
Commissioner Preston,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Huda,
Yes.
Mayor Dan.
Yes.
Okay, you are now on item number 12. This is the ILA with the city of Boca Raton to address project coordination and the sharing of the mobilization costs for the project.
Any other comments, Patrick? I do want to thank the city. Eric Power has his hand up. Eric, do you have something you want to say? Okay, thank you. I do want to thank the city of Boca Raton. They've been outstanding to deal with throughout this process. It's really nice to have that relationship with them. So I want to thank them. Move forward with this. Is there anyone from the public who would like to comment on this item? Okay, let's see online. Let's see over here. Close it to public commission.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Vice Mayor Hudak, second by Commissioner Parnas. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Drosky,
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas,
Yes.
Commissioner Preston,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Huda,
Yes.
Mayor Dan.
Yes.
So we are now on item number 13, which would be the agreement with the contractor that was awarded the Boca bid. I just wanted to point out, at least the last time we checked, the agreement, although it was awarded, the bid was awarded by Boca, that hadn't yet executed that. So staff is requesting a deferral until the February 7th, 2023 meeting. So this is likely to come back to you. And we have been in discussions with Hillsborough Beach as well. And both our intent is to basically do a tri-party agreement with this contractor for the sand costs that are going on to Deerfield Beach and Hillsborough, and to address our respective share and how those will be paid in this document, in this agreement that will likely come back to you on February 7th. So staff is requesting a deferral until that time. To say it simply, because I see some faces kind of staring. So
We need a motion for.
we're utilizing the terms of the Boca contract, but they haven't executed it yet, right? So yes, we need a motion.
Okay,
Motion to.
to defer. For motion to defer on number 13.
That's
For
right.
the public here comment. Close it to the public.
Motion to defer.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Preston, second by Commissioner Parnas. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Okay, we are now at comments by administration and legal. I have one comment tonight. Back in the 2022 legislative session, there was a bill that was passed, House Bill 7049. In the 2022 legislature, it was signed into law by the governor, which provided for the use of website internet advertising in lieu of use of newspapers, and would give local governments the ability or the option to go ahead and place ads via a website versus placing them in the traditional newspaper. The way the bill was drafted and approved, the city just can't go and do that. It has to be either the county's website that maintains the repository for these notices, or a website designated by the county. So since the time of approval, while the county may not be using it themselves, they have been negotiating with a vendor to provide for the designation of a website that could be used by municipalities, including Deerfield Beach, and a draft agreement with the county has been floated around. I tell you this to say that I think the manager plans on placing that agreement on the next agenda item. And to be clear, this is a participation agreement that would be with the county. It's sort of the gate for being able to have this option. It doesn't require the city to use it. It gives you the ability to use it.
In lieu of newspaper art.
That's correct. In lieu of placing the ads in the newspaper.
When this does come forward, I request that we should put in there what the savings would be to the city between the two.
Good. Understood. And I think that the negotiations with the vendor are ongoing with the county, but I anticipate that those costs information should be available shortly.
And I don't know if we'll have the cost for the use of the software from the county at the time we entered into this MOU. It's really just a placeholder for us to allow us to move forward at such times when they do have it in place. So I believe that there will be a subsequent item for the commission to consider after that. But additionally, the true cost, we will not know until we actually put out to the public the option to get that mailed, the information mailed to them. And that's going to be a determining factor for us on whether or not we really think it's viable to go ahead, because the costs, the hard costs and the soft costs associated with that could negate the benefits that we would receive from using this.
Just to follow up on what the city manager said. So, as part of this bill, any local government that utilizes these websites for publication does need to put an ad in the newspaper once a year, advising that we do that and giving the opportunity for individuals to request a mailed notice in lieu of the web or an email address so that they can get email notice of that notice. So I think that's what the manager is referring to. You won't know how many individuals will opt out. Yeah. Happy to answer any questions you may have on that. Otherwise, I have no further comments.
Just one for this evening. In a planning meeting this morning with staff, it came to the realization that the first meeting after the municipal election will be March 21st, which would be when we do the swearing in ceremony. That's also the first evening of Broward Days, which I know we have some commissioners who will be attending that. So we are going to look at the ability to shift that meeting and what effects that may have on our rules as it relates to swearing in. So we'll take a look at that and get back with each of you. But I do want to at least alert you to the fact that we recognize that there's a conflict with Broward Days, which we know is important to get up there, up to Tallahassee and present to them our legislative agenda, our appropriation requests, and meet with those who support those initiatives. And speaking of, we will have our legislative agenda coming before the commission sometime in February as well. So I'll keep you all posted on that.
Thank you.
We're now at comments by mayor and city commissioner.
Mr. Vice Mayor, Mr. Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of comments. Last commission meeting, we talked about upgrading the audio up here. I'm not sure if that actually happened, or we're still contemplating that. I'd also like to know what our plans are for this plexiglass. Been up here for 2 years now. I'm comfortable that we can finally get rid of this, kind of see the public a little bit better. And also we have talked about the need for the Zoom meeting as opposed to the first meeting, where we're at with that. So
Absolutely. Vice Mayor, the audio system, I think they're starting tomorrow. I did request they wait until after this meeting as to not be, I was just a little concerned that they might have some overlap into this meeting and not be finished. So they'll be starting immediately after this, which relates directly to the Zoom meeting. So I will have further conversation with the mayor who brought this up at the 2 meetings ago, I believe it was, on our ability to use that system with or without Zoom, but for the commission and public's benefit, the efficiency that we gain with Zoom, however we may use it, doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have a computer in front of you when we use the Zoom. But Zoom provides us the ability to automatically put our meetings on YouTube, and then also it translates the meetings with closed captioning immediately for us, which is a service that we were paying for before this. And it was a bit problematic and inconsistent. So There's some efficiencies that we do have when we do use Zoom, but the way in which we use it, we can certainly amend that. And we want to get the new audio video system in place so we can test its capabilities in different ways and then have some recommendations. And I know you had a third question on the plexiglass. That is something that I welcome some direction from the city commission as a body on.
District 2. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. I would like to thank the Parks and Recs for their participation and their contribution to the MLK event. I'm still receiving compliments about that. And you all know that Kelvin Hughes was the keynote speaker for that. He did a really good job. I'd also like to thank the African American Heritage Board for their input, though it was at the end. It served to be beneficial. And so thank you all for your contribution. For next year, I'd like to see more of a theme for Dr. King, more of a theme and more floats. Get the churches involved early and let's get everybody involved. Get some floats and a lot of, but as it was, the parade was very inspirational. A lot of people talk about the Jungle New Band. They like that. That was good. We all know about the young man, Ricky Ferguson, that tragically was shot in the park and passed away. And so there is still talk about how we can address this and what do we need to do to make parks safer. So I'd like staff to come look at this and in conjunction with BSO, because I'm going to ask for volunteers from parents, volunteers from the community to come out during the time when there is activity on the parks and just come out to the park for a few hours. We need enough volunteers to be able to do that. We work this in conjunction with city staff and BSO. Both those entities are willing to work. So, you know, I'd like to see that. And also I would like to announce, you're right, that there is going to be a district meeting. We'll be hosting a district meeting in February. And it will be on the 22nd, which is a Wednesday, 7 p.m. Now, that's a kind of a specialized meeting, and we're going to be talking about that area. Excuse me. Well, they may not be able to attend, but this is a meeting that we got to get in, and we're going to be talking about the area over by Southwest 10th Street and 11th Way. About that area over there, I want to get some input from the public, from the people, not just residents, but I want to hear what District 2 has to say about that area over there. And we're going to talk about that a little bit. So that will be on the 22nd at 7 p.m. Okay, and that will be at the Hillsborough Technology Center. Hillsborough. Okay. And that's it.
District 3, what's your part of this?
The people that asked me from District 3, Crystal Lake area, about people parking on swales. I had a conversation this evening with our police chief. And if it's illegal, they're going to issue warnings first, and then they're going to blanket people with tickets. I was told it's illegal for the following reason. Swales are sometimes next to sidewalks. you're walking with children on the sidewalk and there's a car 1.5 feet from you that lurches forward or to the side, it's extremely dangerous. They belong on the road, not on swales. And so when I ride with the police, and I do that occasionally, I do a shift with them in a squad car, they gave tickets out. And they told people, do not park on swales, it's dangerous for pedestrians. Other than that, District 3 is doing well. People are beginning to cooperate. They're beginning to take pride in their neighborhood. There was a time you could ride down Military Trail 7 days a week between 10th Street and Sample Road, when 7 days a week you'd find couches, tables, all kinds of garbage out 7 days a week. Well, we decided to do something about it. Most of those dwellings are rentals. So we ticketed the landlords. And guess what? I rode down there today. I rode down there yesterday. I rode down there Sunday. I couldn't find a single chair or box out of place. And I'm going, people are beginning to get their pride back, make the place look better. And I say, job well done by code enforcement, who looks to make the city beautiful, not give out tickets to be nasty, but to stop making us look like a junkyard where people just throw their garbage all over the streets anytime they want to. And I'm happy to see that ending. Next, this is for my village people. Tuesday the 16th, I'm holding a meeting in the village. And I will hold it elsewhere where necessary. If people complain to me that the cost of building insurance, not individual homes, has skyrocketed. Some buildings have gone up $20,000 for the year in premium. Others have been told, we don't like your roof. If you don't put a new $300,000 roof on your apartment house, we're not going to insure you. Well, there may be a better way. And so I'm holding a meeting in the party room, Century Village, 1 o'clock on February 16th. I'm asking all village unit owners, come and learn. There may be a way to save 40 or 50% on premiums. I'm not just talking through my hat. I've had a little bit of experience in the insurance industry. And when the owner of an insurance company approached me, I listened carefully. I spent my youth right out of high school with Hartford. From there, I moved to be the manager of the assignment department of the Interborough Mutual Insurance Company in New York. And I became a broker for 10 years. And I found out about what they call after insurance. Lloyd's of London, the Bermuda company. Many insurance companies say, well, we'll insure you for $20,000 and the property's worth $1 million. Well, with a $10,000 deductible, you can go to Lloyd's of London and get the rest of it real cheap. They've been around since the 1800s. So we're having this meeting and having a president of an insurance company throw some ideas out. I'm not telling people what to do, whether it's a good idea or it's a bad idea. I'm asking you to come and learn and listen, and then make up an intelligent decision. And I think that's important. And if other areas want the same thing, if many condos with big buildings that are having a problem, my area, contact me and I'll set up a meeting in your area to see how it can be done, if it can be done, to save you 40% on your insurance through a cooperative effort. Other than that, I wish everybody a welcome soon to spring, to better weather, and health. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, sure. I never thought of you as the leader of the village people, but it's a heck of a visual, I can tell you that.
I was a musician most of my life.
There you go. District 4, Mr. Grassi.
Is he the Indian or the police chief?
Depends on what day of the
Heather, let's start with you. So I'm just going down. I have quite a few things this evening, so bear bear with me, please. So while Heather is teeing up this couple pictures that I want to show tonight, you know, it's not just a commission meeting twice a month that we come to as elected officials. It's actually a lot of behind the scenes work that we do. We probably spend as much time, if not more, in our night jobs as we do our day, pardon me, our day jobs. And so part of the night job entails being ambassadors and advocates for the city of Deerfield Beach. And we all wear multiple hats in addition to being commissioners and mayor. One of the things that I do, you know, some of the other roles that I play, but one of them is advocating for the city through the Fort Lauderdale Alliance, that I'm the liaison to that organization. And the Alliance basically is an economic engine for the county that brings in, you know, business into our county on a regional effort. You know, the members of the Alliance include not just us, the city of Deerfield Beach, but it includes JetBlue, Wells Fargo, Bank of America. So these are some major players in our county that are involved. And today we had the opportunity, so quarterly we have meetings in one of the businesses in Broward County hosts. And today was the Florida Panthers turn. And so this is the pictures that you're looking at are their new practice facility in downtown Fort Lauderdale, not the arena out west in Sunrise, but the practice facility in downtown Fort Lauderdale. If you can, I don't know if you're able to stop the pictures from rotating or not. So if you can just leave it there, that's from the bleachers in the practice facility where the Panthers will be practicing. This is what a hockey rink looks like before they put the ice down. And so I thought it was kind of interesting. There is a humongous and intricate system that goes beneath the sheet of ice that keeps it from, especially in Florida, from melting. And you can see this is before, this is the metal railings, I guess, that they put down, and piping will go up and down in between everything that you're looking at there. And so this facility, the $70 million that they're in, it's probably going to take another 6 to 8 months to complete. But this is in downtown Fort Lauderdale. So this is what's happening in Broward County and in our area. You know, these are people that will come, you know, because not only will the Panthers hockey team practice here, they'll have tournaments. They'll have people coming from out of state, and those people won't necessarily stay in Fort Lauderdale. They'll stay in Deerfield Beach and other areas. So this is going to affect the entire community at large. If you want to just rotate the other pictures real quick, that's from the bleachers looking down. That's down looking up at the bleachers. It's approximately 1,000 to 2,000 people that can sit in those bleachers on the left. And again, that's just the floor, what it will look like. And this is one of 2 ice rinks that they will have, so that while the players are practicing on one, they can be having scrimmages on another, and vice versa, to a competitive advantage to those teams that have only one ice. Then you have to bring the Zamboni out and you have to clean the ice. This way they can practice on the other rink while the other one's being cleaned up. So this is just one thing that's happening in Broward County that I just wanted to show you what was going on. So thank you, Heather, for indulging me and taking the time to put those up, because I would have never figured that out myself. Secondly, just to talk about House Bill 77 real quick, and this is the advertising on the website. I did speak to a commissioner from Parkland last night, actually, and they did approve this at their last meeting just to be a part of it. Their advertising costs annually are $35,000. So I can't imagine ours are going to be any less than that. So this is going to be, I think, a significant savings to the city, and a no-brainer when the time comes. I don't know what our numbers are going to be. I can't see them being any less than Parkland's numbers. But this is something that I think that we'll probably need to take advantage of when the time comes. But just if you want an idea of what the cost savings could be, that's what Parkland is roughly going to be. Next is the construction hours. I'm not taking a position one way or the other tonight. I think there's a lot of moving parts and variables. I would like, if there is any analysis to come forward, to know what other cities around us are doing in Broward County and Palm Beach in particular, because we don't want to inadvertently put ourselves at a competitive disadvantage. I know there was already a small sample of cities that was put into our weekly packet. And as I recall, we are already one of the most restricted cities around. I believe that the hours for other cities on Saturday were longer, and there were even Sunday hours for other cities as well. So that's just something, if we're going to evaluate it, I have no problem with that, but let's just look at the big picture and all of the information. So if that's going to be something we're going to look at, that's something I'd want to see as to what, is happening around us as well, so that we don't inadvertently hurt ourselves. It was mentioned during the public portion tonight that in the Villages of Hillsborough Park this Saturday from noon to 2 is the Brazilian Voices Jazz Concert. Please come out and enjoy a good time this weekend. It's supposed to be cooler this weekend, as I understand as well, so it should be a nice weekend. Next, at the end of January, on the 30th and 31st, the Florida Department of Transportation is holding 2 workshops regarding the widening of the Sawgrass Expressway from west of 441 to Powerline Road. This is something that is obviously near and dear to residents in my district, especially in the waterways and Independence Bay communities. But this is going to affect all of us, including our friends in Coconut Creek as well. So on January 30th, there is a virtual meeting only. That is at 6 o'clock in the evening. And you can sign up on the website for this project, which is www.sawgrass441topowerline.com. I know it's long. So it's Sawgrass, the number is 441 followed by TO, powerline.com. That's how you can register for the January 30th virtual meeting. The following night on January 31st will be the identical presentation, but in person at the Heron Bay Marriott, which is in Coral Springs, 11775 Heron Bay Boulevard to be exact. That will have the same presentation as the virtual meeting, but it will be in person, and staff from FDOT will be there to answer questions. I encourage as many people to show up at either of those meetings as possible, and to please, as with the Southwest 10th Street project, to make your comments and your concerns known. We saw from the last meeting what this could look like, and this project will encroach right on the doorsteps of waterways in Deerfield Beach, and then on the north west corner in Coconut Creek. So those residents really don't know what's coming ahead of them with this particular project. So this is one way to learn more about the project. It will be very similar to what we had at our last meeting, and also make your comments and opinions known. And last but not least, the mayor and I this past Saturday had an opportunity to attend the, it's really a celebration from, and I'm going to say it wrong because my Creole is horrible, is Temple Adventiste de Deerfield Beach. They had, they paid off the mortgage to their church. And when you pay off the mortgage to your church, they have a festival and they do it right and they do it well. And the mayor and I showed up, and unbeknownst to me, they had a certificate of appreciation to the city of Deerfield Beach, which I am bringing tonight with me to present to the city manager, that he can find a nice spot in City Hall where we can advertise this, that not only are we community partners with our churches, but they're community partners with us. I'm going to hand this over to the city manager. And with that, I appreciate your indulgence and
Thank you. I do want to thank, well, to go back to the point that Mr. Grassi's brought up, the Adventist Church at Deerfield Beach also presented us with a nice wall clock for City Hall here that will be turned over to the city manager, final location for that. But it was congratulations to them and a beautiful event, and a wonderful community participant here in the city of Deerfield Beach. I do want to thank the Jim and Jan Moran Boys and Girls Club for what they did for services for Mr. Ferguson. Mr. Ferguson was a part of that family. He attended the team club there, and they considered his family there, and they really stepped up. Even had the CEO of the Boys and Girls Club of the United States fly in to pay his respects. I thought they did an excellent job. That's another wonderful partner. I am going to just say this about when it comes to our construction hours. I believe our construction hours were already adjusted a few years back based on the same individual who's complaining about them now. So, we got to figure that out a little bit. If memory corrects me. So I agree that we need to look at that a little bit further. We've already adjusted it once for him. We need to look at that. I am going to be bringing up during the budget this year, for next year, to us to bring back the plans that we had for the artificial reef off the coast. I'd like us to at least discuss that. I'm not looking for it to be the exact same plan as we had before. But I think the overall purpose of what that was to be has a great benefit to the city here for the beach and our residents and our visitors. So I'd like us to bring that back up and do that. It's probably better to do it after we do our beach renourishment, but it is something for consideration. I'll be seeing that. So I'm just giving warning ahead for next year's budget, this upcoming year's budget. Today, the Broward County School Board moved to remove the superintendent of the school board. So I would like our education advisory board to keep an eye on that. Whoever is appointed, let's make sure that our concerns that we've had over the years, I know I've talked to Rupert about it from the school board, but I want to make sure education advisory board is involved and engaged on that, keeping an eye on what's going on with that. I'm going to say this until there's some kind of change. I know we're working on it, but I'm just going to constantly remind speeding. So Chief, I know you're working on it. I know we're doing some joint work with Coconut Creek, but it is still a major problem. Our roads are very hazardous. It's not just Deerfield Beach, it's everywhere, but I'd like us to go do whatever we can to try to curb the problem. And I do want to thank PSO for all the work that we can on these events that occurred, and certainly our thoughts and prayers are with the deputies and the speedy recovery. And at this point, removing the plexiglass, I have no problem if you want to remove the plexiglass. I kind of feel like it's a sneeze guard at a salad bar at this point. So
That's good.
I don't like Zoom meetings because it's a lot of work to do that. You guys don't realize how hard it is to try to maintain track of everybody. Staff does a good job helping along with that, but it is a lot of work. But the benefit is, I think in the end, it might be a lot of work for me, but I think you get a lot more feedback from the residents that can't hear. So I'm okay with that for us continuing on with Zoom, as long as we improve the sound, because otherwise it's pointless if they can't hear this. So that's all I have to say.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion is second adjourn. All in favor, say aye.